Okay, here I am, Britney Spears shirt and all. I will do a full podcast on her one day. She is one of my favorite performers. I would say my favorite singer, but I would say performer better fits her. But we need her to be healthy. Anyway, that's besides the point. I wanted to talk about two things today that I said I would never do as a parent. You're going to think I'm crazy. It's a little bit silly, but here we go.
This is the Sprinter Mom with Lashes On Podcast.
So thanks for joining. I'm Sarah with Sprinter Mom Lashes On. I got my lashes recently done. I told my friend Allison, I hope I look like Snuffleupagus. It's my favorite thing. One of the things that I said I would never have my kids do is attend a private school. And I know that sounds silly. My kids are all in a private school now, and I actually used to teach at a private school. So the backstory is that when I went to school to become a teacher, school looked very different. And in college, it was still very hopeful, exciting, making an impact in students' lives, great teachers all around. It was a dream to think about working with kids every day and then having a flexible schedule if you were like a mom or had family or whatever it may be. I went to public school my whole life and loved it. I think by God's grace and my parents' prayers, I always had, I typically had Christian teachers, even though they weren't allowed to say that. I often ended up with Christian teachers. I had, very great teachers, good experiences. My mom was always involved. Of course, she was like president of the PTA. But I had great experiences at my public elementary school. My public middle school sucked because it was, for Phoenix, it was ghetto. Choya Middle School, woo, Choya Chargers, I think. I was often really scared of getting beat up. And in 7th grade, I was threatened a lot to be beat up. Just by boys that were my boyfriends, or I don't know, people wanted to beat me up. And so I was afraid for my life most of 7th grade. But then I had a few very good best friends, and I also learned to make friends with, some of the girls in 8th grade so that I wasn't beat up. And so 8th grade was a really fun year because I knew I was safe. But anyway, then I went to a public high school, and same thing. Loved it. Loved my teachers, loved my experience, did flag lines, student council, cheer, band. It was a great experience. And so when I was working and teaching at a private Christian school, I realized that around me was really good teachers. There were really good teachers at the private school, but there were also, when I was in a public school, great teachers at the public school. So as a young adult, I really didn't see much in the teaching difference and the education difference in the teachers and where their heart was for students. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, why would I ever pay a crap ton of money for my kid to go where, yes, a teacher is teaching them and loving on them and instilling, some of the big blocks and basics of life and development and education and learning and all this stuff in my child's life. Why would I spend that money when I can take them to the local public school, get the same type of teacher who loves them, spurs them on, teaches them great things, like all this stuff, but I don't have to pay a dime. And so I always told myself, it's really about the teachers, not necessarily about the school. And that's kind of what I stuck by. And so when we had our kids and they were young, and we actually we were in a neighborhood in South Phoenix. I won't say where, but the district that we were in, we knew the principal because we were doing outreach and different community events. And we knew the principal and the assistant principal, and the principal told my husband, you need to move or get a variance because you do not want your kids in these schools. They were huge classrooms. Most of the kids spoke only Spanish. And so it was a lot of interpretation and different things that they could do. And anyway, the principal basically warned us to get out of the neighborhood. So we did. We got out of the neighborhood. We moved to a home that was right across the street from a school being built. And I was so excited because I thought we already had 4 kids at the time. Actually, we had 5 at the time because Pima was adopted at that point. So we had 5 kids, and we knew that I wanted them to be able to walk across the street to school, because I thought, I am not going to be in my car every day, morning and night, driving far, doing the pickup line. I've seen pickup lines. They look horrendous. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So we bought a house right across the street from a school. It was a bilingual immersion program. Wonderful school, great experience. Again, great teachers. We had an excellent principal. It was pretty much everything I had dreamed of as a young parent with my kids going to a school. It was good friends, families with the same values and desire for their kids to learn and be in a good environment and, learn Spanish and English and just have a community of friends, a neighborhood of friends, and be able to connect in that way. So I did the PTA, or was it PTA? Yeah, PTA for 2 years. Things were going well. Of course, COVID hit, which threw off everything. And let me tell you, speaking Spanish into a Zoom screen is not so fun. COVID was pretty horrific for us in my household. But I would say that with some school changes, we switched to a school that was in person, not Spanish. Another great school in the district, had a great principal, assistant principal. We were really happy. But my daughter started having some issues with girls that were talking about things that were older than her age should be. But of course, she didn't tell us until one night my husband got it out of her, actually walking around Halloween, going and trick-or-treating. My husband was asking her questions and poking and prodding, and she just one day broke down crying because she was terrified to speak up or talk about the things that the girls were talking about. She wouldn't even speak it out loud because she said it was not okay for an 11-year-old to be talking that way. So anyway, we immediately were like, okay, we're gone. We're going to go back to the school where we had our friends we grew up with. It'll be all good. So we ended up splitting our kids a little bit into 2 were at one school and 2 were at another school. And then after doing 2 drives, it was insane. So I was like, I'm not doing drop off, pick up on a daily basis. It's too much. And so we ended up putting everyone back at the original school that we used to be able to walk to, but then we had moved home. So then I was driving every day 15 minutes. Anyway, we went to start the school year in 2022. My daughter and my son were actually both in 6th grade. And my daughter came home from school the first week and was kind of like iffy. And mind you, she had known these kids since she was in kindergarten. Some kids had moved to a different school in the district, but we were at the same spot, same people we know, different leadership at the time, but a lot of the similar teachers that they had followed, teachers that we loved. Turns out that in the first week of school, because maybe it's 6th grade, the kids were cussing and sharing their favorite cuss words and talking about their favorite alcoholic drink. And just, again, being too old for their actual age. So where my son would listen to some of these things and just kind of go along with it, my daughter avoids it and will isolate herself. And so we found out that she was hiding in the bathroom during lunch, that when recess would come, she would just hang out in the bathroom or hang out under a tree by herself, or like with one other kid that maybe wasn't like a big friend. And then it got to the point, the second week into school, that a teacher was emailing me and making sure that it was okay for Brooklyn to spend her entire lunch hour in the teacher's classroom so that she could be kind of a teacher's assistant, but it was mainly to avoid any of the social interactions with the boys and girls outside of the classroom. And at that point, Ryan and I knew this is it. This is what draws the line for us for the public school versus private school. We knew that beyond the teachers, that the influence of the kids and the environment that maybe some of them were used to, our kids weren't quite used to. And we really wanted to keep our sixth graders' innocence for as long as possible. And so we just immediately started looking for schools. And the crazy thing is that the first one we toured, because it was like a feeder to the high school we thought they were going to go to, the first one we toured, I was like, this is it. It's lovely. It's small. It's so great. Small classrooms. Perfect. We switched the older two over, and within 2 weeks, we found out that their teacher pretty much was on the spectrum and had autism. But the kind of school that it was like a Lutheran missional school. So it was like a calling to be there. And so you can't just like be like, hey, this guy is a little harsh for the kids. And like, we work with kids and adults with autism. So we get it and we understand it and we have such compassion for it. It's pretty actually normal. A lot of people are on the spectrum. But in the classroom setting, it was really hard for our kids to have any, to have the straight black and white. There was no gray. It didn't look like their teacher cared for them. He was male. They were discouraged pretty much every day. And so here we were 4 weeks into the school year looking for another school. We went to another school, Phoenix Christian School K-8, not the one that goes through high school, but the one that stops at 8th grade. It was another small school. It was a covenant school, I think they call it. So you have to have a letter from a pastor. It's not missional where everyone gets to go in. And we went and toured and met the principal. And I had told my husband, because originally we had plans to tour there, tour the two schools, the first one we went to, and then this one. And after touring the first school, I told him, I can't do it. We need to get them out. Like, let's put them in school. We're done. And when we went to that school, I told my husband, I said, I should have followed your leadership and direction in this, because you were right. Had we had toured both schools, we would have made the decision to do Phoenix Christian. And instead, I just immediately went with the other one because I was just so anxious and had anxiety over them moving in the first place. I hate the flipping around of schools. I don't like change in classroom settings. I'm like, if you start the school year, I want them to end the school year at the same place, same teacher. But this was such a bizarre year for us as we navigated what sixth grade looked like for our daughter. A blessing behind that I don't know that my son would share out loud, but so my daughter and son, Brooklyn and Gavin, had always been in the same grade together. And moving schools was actually a chance for us to put Gavin back in the grade that his birthday would have put him at. So instead of being the youngest in the class with a summer birthday, he's the oldest in his class with a summer birthday. And really to see him thrive in his own classroom and not have a sister that he kind of competes with stories or learning or anything has really been great to see. And so I'm so thankful we switched based off of their needs and what's best for them and their development. But secondly, we ended up taking my younger two and going from a classroom of 25 or 30 kids to classrooms of 12 or 15 kids has been so incredible for our kiddos. And I would say it's not just the teachers, but the environment of prayer and the culture that they've created in the school has been so amazing. And one of my favorite things about the private school aspect is that they get in trouble for pretty small things. And so Maddox, of course, always is being written up or whatever, usually for calling someone a butthead or stupid head or whatever it may be, or psych or duh, or who knows. But they take small things and make them big so that the big issues never come because they knock it out really fast. And so here we were, our first time ever in a private school. Thank goodness the ESA came out, scholarships, and they have ACSTOs and various things. And again, because I had taught at a private Christian school, I knew all about that stuff, but I also knew in public schools, there are great teachers, great kids, great environments. However, schools are changing, kids are shifting. I still think teachers are incredible with great hearts, and God bless them for all that they do for the little money that they make. But I don't know often how families are raising their kiddos. And so those kids that then go to recess and say cuss words or talk about sexual things or things that I don't want my daughter to be talking about yet. Thank goodness she stops it. It's not even like I have to say, hey, don't be in that situation. She removes herself from that situation. But I need her to be around other kids who would remove themselves as well, or who don't talk about that in the first place. And so here we are at our private Christian school, and it's been life-changing for our kids and our family. And even though I drive 20 to 25 minutes a day back and forth in the morning and in the afternoon, the joy that my kids have, the teachers that we've met, the prayers, the ways that they have invested in the lives of our kids is so far beyond what I would ever imagine at a public school or really anywhere. So we're grateful. And even though I said they would never be in a private school, here we are. I want to take a second and thank Hanai Coffee and Cocktails for sponsoring my podcast. This is such a cute place over on the corner of 35th Avenue and Southern. It is very Hawaiian themed because Hanai in Hawaiian actually means adoption. And part of the proceeds that we receive at Hanai go towards Ohana's adoption program, finding kids and teens their forever family. It's a great coffee for a cause, a place that you would want to be for live music, community, friendly customer service, and it's super kid friendly. So Hanai, 35th Avenue and Southern, we hope you can visit someday. Second thing I said I would never do that I am doing is have my kids in club sports. So I think as a parent of multiples, it's really tricky. And I never thought I would have this many kids. So it's not even about the number of kids. It's that I grew up really with like the church life. And so I was always the family that was at church every Wednesday night and Sunday morning and Sunday evening. And my friends that were in club sports are really dedicated typically did not attend church. And so I was always like, well, I don't know how you can make church and Jesus a part of your life, but really like worship sports. And so I knew like time-wise and what I'm used to and how I grew up, like club sports just wasn't going to be a thing. My brother played a lot of sports. I was in sports, but it was typically rec sports or seasonal sports. But I don't know that club was like club back in the 90s. And so it just wasn't as intense or demanding, I think. But I don't know. Times have changed. Like it seems way more demanding now. And like a lot more expectations and time and money. And so as time has gone on and we're big on family time, big on being at home, watching a show, big on vacations, big on church and events and Ohana events. And so as a family, we do a lot of stuff together, but one of those things wasn't going to be someone's game that we have to go to all weekend long or skip church or whatever it may be. And then our kids started getting older and we realized that being in rec or trying out different things makes them okay in most things, but not great at one thing. And when Xavier and Ricardo moved in and they were killing it at soccer, they had only played for a year and they're like really good. And so Ryan had to start looking into club, and I was like, no, thank you. We're not doing this. This is insane. The amount of driving, this, that. So luckily, Ryan was able to find 2 club teams that were close to our home so that 4 of our boys were in soccer. One of our sons is in basketball, but both of them were in kind of the range of our neighborhood. The other thing that we like to do is we typically have always put our kids on the same practice schedule. So if we know Maddox is having practices on Mondays, then we are trying to get the other teams or our kids on teams that also have practices Monday. So we've typically tried to move that around based off of like if we had any say on their practice days or whatnot. And we're not crazy if they miss, a practice. Like it's not going to be our whole world. But as our kids have really shown their talents and learned so much about the different sports that they're in, we're realizing that they need time to develop those skills, and the time is now. And the places that are developing those skills are the club sports. And so here we are in club sports, spending weekends driving from here to there, to here, to there, to here, to there. But as much as my selfishness wants me to like be at home with my kids and bundle them all up in the couch with me and just be like, let's chill out all the time, because it's so much. They deserve to be on teams. They deserve to be around their peers playing one of their favorite games. They deserve to have the sports life that they're really good at, and that it's okay. And I think that sometimes I'm like afraid to join stuff because I know they will be in something, they will be in something, they will be in something. And so now everyone is spread out into various clubs or cheer or whatever it may be. And so as parents, we're driving around like crazy, but my kids didn't choose to have this many kids. And so whether I had 1 child, 3 children, or 9 at home right now, they all deserve to have somewhat of normalcy for childhood. And part of childhood is doing sports and being in clubs and attending groups like that and going to youth group. And so even though we have to divide and conquer often, and that's why we have a nanny and help driving and all the things, because Ryan and I are typically spread out with help, and we still have multiple drives to make during the week. But our kids deserve it. They love it. We love that they're passionate about something, and it keeps them busy and out of trouble and off video games. So here we are, club sports family. It's not my favorite thing, but I love watching them do things that they love, and that makes the driving worth it.
Thanks for joining us today for the Sprinter Mom with Lashes On podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.